Think. All right. Yeah. So I'll try to keep this under an hour, but if you would like to stay on afterward for questions or discussion or anything, feel free. So just to recap from the previous meeting, the regional plan is a visionary document that helps shape local policy over the next 20 years. So we're looking at a 20-year time frame for this. And we're planning to have the process complete sometime in late October, maybe November. And once again, everything you need to know about the regional plan is on our website. And I'd ask that if you could just share the survey with everyone you know. It just helps make this plan more valid, a better representation of people's interests, so we can incorporate all this feedback. And once again, contact me with any questions that you have. So let's briefly look over the vision and goals. And I said we would have a discussion on it, but I think in the interest of time, we're going to table that maybe for the end of this meeting or at some other time, just because I want to make sure that we have a good SWOT discussion, which is the centerpiece of this meeting this afternoon. So the regional vision is the vision of coastal Georgia is to be a unique and cohesive region based on innovation and excellence in all we do to preserve, nurture, enhance, and develop our abundant human, natural, historic, cultural, and economic resources. And we have these goals here. That's community health and wellness, economic prosperity, resource management, transportation, livable communities, and alleviating poverty. And we can get into those later if we have time. So we have had a pretty successful survey response, and I thank all of you that helped out with that very much. That has very much helped us out. We've got about 920 or so responses, so we're close to 1,000. And we've got a representation of all of our counties and most of our cities, with the exception of some fairly small cities that we haven't had any responses from. And this is the distribution of the survey results. So shout out to Camden. They have done a great job at getting responses for that. I think their proportion of responses is 2.5 times their proportion of the region's population. So kudos to them. And just thanks to everyone that helps spread the word about this. And I'm going to go through some of the questions and just sort of highlight a few things just to give a primer to our discussion. So we had this question, where are you employed? And as you can see, the vast majority were within the county. And then if you look at the red and the green, over probably like 75% were within the coastal region. So, and then we got very small responses for, still in Georgia, but outside the coastal region, for Florida, South Carolina, very few here. And then most of the other were retired people. So this just sort of shows that the coastal region is more of a destination for cross-regional work commute than an origin. People are more coming here to work, and people in the coastal region aren't really going to other areas of Georgia, physically speaking, in a daily commute in order to get to work. And in case there's anyone from GDOT here, we did ask about whether people have heard of our rural transit service, coastal regional coaches. And we've had about, let's say, 45% that have, and about 54% that have not. We had several rating questions that covered a variety of topics and services, and this is just a summary of what we got from those. And obviously these vary by community and people can disagree, but this is just sort of a quick rundown of what the common themes were from these survey questions. And what we do poorly in the region, according to the survey, is mental health, homelessness, economic diversification, employment opportunities, and workforce development. And what we do well, according to the survey, is roads, arts, education, food availability, and livability for all ages. And so we had a question that was ranking a set of priorities for the region, and we had the top 5 results here, just as sort of a way to think about the focus for our regional plan and our goals and whatnot, just as a way to facilitate that discussion. And this is interesting because this is sort of a nice result because it sort of covers the 3 main topics that are most appropriate for regional planning, and which are like basically with these 3, you got pretty much resource management, and then with this you got transportation, and with this you have economic development. So those are pretty good, pretty appropriate results for a regional plan. With housing issues, we had the top 3 results were a lack of affordable housing, blighted properties, and a lack of senior housing. And with transportation issues, the top 2 were sidewalks and bike lanes. So it seems like there's a good amount of support for bike and pedestrian investment and improvement. So I just went through all of the hundreds of short answers and just looked for common themes, things that people mentioned a lot, repeated over and over. And this is sort of what I got from it. So we asked people about what they thought the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the region are, which is what we're going to be discussing as well later on in the meeting. And these are the common themes that we got from this, and it's about what you would expect. With the strengths, it's focused definitely on resources, coastal beauty, and natural resources, schools, the community, the impact of the military, and all the history that the coastal region has to offer. And with the weaknesses, we have sort of workforce issues, affordable housing, infrastructure, traffic, a lack of recreation opportunities, crime, unplanned growth, a lack of public transportation, blight, poverty, schools, and low-paying jobs. With the opportunities, obviously capitalizing on tourism, planning development better, attracting industry, the ports, which I guess depending on where you live, you might actually be seeing that as a threat, but and also marine industry, and just the notion that we're a good location for economic development and we're at the right time for it, and that there's a lot of potential right now for economic development and bringing jobs and bringing industry to the region. And finally, the threats, a loss of resources and coastal character, obviously losing our coastal assets, what makes us sort of a coastal region, development taking over, sea level rise, further traffic issues resulting from the ports, sprawl patterns, and disaster preparedness. And here's I wanted to include the word clouds for these short answers, the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, because it just sort of highlights what people were focused on in a very visible sense. So obviously, natural resources, historic, coastal beauty, very focused on the innate aspects of the coastal region. Community, people, and all those things. And with the weaknesses, you see this big word in the center, lack. So lack of affordable housing, lack of public transportation, lack of, I guess, workforce development facilities. You have infrastructure issues, homelessness, issues with the education system, issues with industry, and all of these things. And then with the opportunities, we have growth, development, again, tourism, once again, natural resources, coastal resources, job opportunities, industry. And finally, with the threats, we have, once again, this big word in the center, lack. Then you have development, And then you have climate-related things like hurricanes, and I think climate, and I think sea level, something related to sea level rise, and more hurricanes, disasters. Again, focus sort of on the innate issues resulting from being on the coastal region. And we also had our listening session in Richmond Hill on May the 12th. And just in addition to what was highlighted from the surveys, these are sort of the highlights from that meeting, some ideas for the coastal region and how to plan for the future. And what was mentioned was community gardens. Big thing was remote workers, encouraging them to come to the coastal region to live, even though they're working elsewhere. Promoting infill and sort of conversely avoiding sprawl patterns. Promoting ecotourism, planning for sea level rise, and sort of similar to the second one, avoiding brain drain. So we want to bring, I guess, the smart and talented people to the coastal region to live, but we also want to keep them from leaving. And that, of course, requires good planning, that requires bringing good jobs to the region. And also we have stormwater issues, which has been highlighted again and again as something that requires a regional approach and regional coordination. And also what was mentioned is promoting wildlife greenways and the decline of seafood industries in the region. So this SWOT analysis will form the basis for the region's needs and opportunities, which will provide the basis for the work program, which is a list of items that the Coastal Regional Commission and just the region as a whole will pursue over the next several years. And I'm not gonna read these out to you, but this is just a few things to think about while we're thinking about what the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of the region are. Before we get into that discussion, maybe just think about it for a few minutes. Think about these various topics. Oh, shit.
Can I have a question? Thank you.
Yes,
this
hello.
This is Caroline with G.Planning, and I find it exciting that you mentioned teleworkers, because obviously that's the new trend, and the pandemic has opened a new horizon for all of us. As a matter of fact, we are teleworking most of the time as well. But that brought an interesting point, because on the one hand, we have affordable housing. On the other hand, we have this trope of teleworkers who are now can escape the city and can just go and work from anywhere. That will add to the demand side, constraining the supply side of the housing supply. And I don't know if you have thought of a plan or discussed a plan to balance this. You want new people to move in. You know there might be more people to move in, but you don't know how to tackle the crisis of affordable housing.
Yeah, sorry. So we're going to have a program called Mentimeter, and we're going to sort of be doing our SWOT analysis facilitated through that program. And Scott Burson, who's a fellow regional planner, will be going through that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. That's absolutely true. The rise of telework is going to be a huge factor all over the country, and it's definitely going to be a thing for our region. We do have a cool program that we can use to do our SWOT. Cole, can you see if you can give me screen share permissions? We over here are still learning the intricacies of Microsoft Teams.
Yeah, I said select presenter. Do you not want to share screen option?
Let's see. It says only meeting organizers and presenters can share.
Wait, oh wait, maybe not.
We're getting there.
Make it, okay, there you go. Make it presenter. Should be able to.
Yes. All right. All right. Very good. We're making it happen. All right. Okay. Somebody tell me, is it working?
Yes.
Yes. Great. Okay. All right. So some of you guys might be familiar with this program. I know it's been used a couple times, but I think it'll be a nice way for us to really quickly generate a lot of responses because we have a lot of people in the room, in the Zoom room, so to speak. So the way this works, you can pull up a separate tab, or you can get on your phone, which is usually the way a lot of people do it, and just follow the instructions at the top of the screen. Go to that website and type in the code, and you'll be able to submit answers directly to this, and you'll see it kind of pop up live. And so, yeah, so when we're talking about strengths, again, some of you may be familiar with the SWOT analysis, but strengths, we're talking about what makes the region good, what makes the region strong, what is good about being here? Why do you live here? Why do you have a business here? Why do you think this is a place that has a lot of stuff to offer? We're seeing a lot about, so far the natural resources, the beauty of the coast, the Golden Isle, so to speak. We have the Port of Savannah, of course, extremely important. The leisure and entertainment. Regional collegiality is an interesting one. That's kind of interesting to see. It's cool. Tourism, natural beauty, proximity to the interstate highways. It's a good one. Reasonable cost of living. Give it another, another minute or so. Yeah.
Yeah. So people have had time to sort of get started in thinking about what the strengths are, and have started to type their responses. So we can get started with like the actual verbal discussion of what you think the strengths of the region are. If you have any comments on this, just while people are typing in their responses.
Who said not Florida?
That's a good one, and it's a lot.
Yeah, that's nice.
And I'm from Florida, so I feel like I can say that.
But either on your desk or on the wall. I have it framed.
Hi, Scott.
And so,
Hello.
but I'm not gonna say anything, at the meeting. But this is for you, because I know that you wouldn't do.
So, a lot of what we're seeing here, when we talk about the regional plan, we're talking about, this is kind of a unique document and a unique, undertaking, because we're zooming out into what makes this, what is the region, what does that mean to be a region, and what we see kind of through these.
It's in a little box, so I'm not gonna pull it out.
Things that are about.
Just a sec, let me put my phone down.
are about the region as a whole. So we're talking about things like natural, the natural world, natural resources, the history that is really, really heavily kind of embedded in the blood of this whole region.
Hey, Scott. Oh, one
Yes.
minute. I'd just like to remind people to please mute yourself if you're not speaking. It's distracting.
Thank you. Yes, thank you.
This is Alex Muir from 100 Miles. I find the reasonable cost of living to be interesting, and I think that is true if you can afford a home. I've been a renter in both Savannah and Brunswick, Georgia in the past 3 years, and it is hard to rent and also be able to save for a home, and even when you're making a decent salary. So, and I don't have a family or anything, so I have to push back on that a little bit. I think it requires a little more context. Affordable housing in Savannah was like the #1 issue I heard about when organizing communities in Savannah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with a lot of these vary a lot by community, but you are correct that one of the main weaknesses that we saw was the lack of affordable housing, and that was, I think, the main housing issue that was highlighted from the survey. Yeah.
And how would you define affordable? What percentage of one's income goes to housing is considered affordable in your region?
Typically, when we do affordable housing plans in our region, we're looking at the 30% number. So sometimes we will work with the banks and the realtors in the area to determine specifically what we're looking at. Because sometimes even when we rely on income data, it can be skewed depending on what part of a county you're looking at or what part of a population block you're looking at. So, but normally it's around the 30% number.
Then based on what data did you claim the cost of living for the area was reasonable? I said that because I find it unreasonable just about anywhere.
Can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
You have reasonable cost of living listed under the region strengths, but I was asking, since you said 30% of the income under that go to a home, as Lee pointed out, would be reasonable. But how would you consider the cost of living in your area reasonable? What are the criteria to determine that, etc.?
Correct. So these responses will be responses from citizens and from the public, not necessarily the Coastal Regional Commission's definition of what is affordable. So if you're asking us as an organization what we consider to be affordable, is normally around 30% of one's income. And if you're paying above that and in housing expenses, we would consider that a housing burden. But for the sake of the regional plan, you know, if one believes that the region is affordable, this is the public's response, and that's what we're gauging here.
That makes sense. Thank you.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next section. These will all be saved. We'll make sure these will all be referenced later on. But let's go ahead and move on to weaknesses, just so we can keep on trucking. So weaknesses, very similar, just a corollary to strengths. So these are things that, think about things that the region perhaps needs to do better on, is failing at in some manner, does not provide enough of, is a vulnerability of some sort, anything like that might be something to be aware of as we go into the future. You might need to, yeah, and if you might need to physically like click the next question button on your phone. I know sometimes it does that. All right, I'm gonna read through some of these as they pop up. So we got affordable housing, very good. Sprawl, county and municipal government kind of friction. I definitely heard about that. Low wages, lack of economic opportunity, sprawl, uneducated population, workforce, education, public transit in rural coastal Georgia, lack of regional coordination and communication, and infrastructure planning. Definitely some stuff about intergovernmental cooperation. That's interesting. Including industries, educational disparity, poverty, lack of rental properties. Definitely a big issue in a lot of our cities. Sprawl, lack of green infrastructure, poverty rate, sprawl development. A lot of concern about sprawl. Limited startup investment capital. Broadband. That's right. It's true. It's very true. Very, very important.
If I could, the person that said broadband, can I ask where you're from, possibly?
Hey, sorry, I had to unmute myself. It was Sean Boatwright from Camden County. So
All right.
I know that we all deal, especially if you've got any kind of rural portions to your community. I know we all deal with citizens who need broadband. I know we're building a facility here, and the service provider could only give us 1.5 meg, which is just enough to run off a phone.
Yeah.
Right.
You can't even run any kind of computer systems or anything like that. So even us as a government, we have suffered, in trying to deal with getting, really good access to broadband. So I know that, the ARPA funds have direct correlations to developing broadband. With companies out there that have already even reached out to us about wanting to work with us by implementing broadband. So I know it's a big push right now. I know we've got citizens that, especially on our north and west sides of the county, need it. The cities are pretty well off in Camden, but I'm sure there's other communities in the regional commission that need it as well. So,
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sean, if you're not aware, and you probably already are, but DCA has a really accurate map for broadband coverage in the state of Georgia. That's much.
Yeah, that's kind of what we go off of. We've looked at that as well, and trying to work in somehow, some way to become broadband ready. That's kind of a goal of ours for the future. So hopefully the ARPA funds can help us out on that end.
Right. There's quite a bit of funds out there for that at the moment. And Scott and Cole, I'd also like to mention quickly that if you guys are speaking, make sure one of you mute your mic, because there is a little bit of feedback when both your mics are open.
That's good to know. Yeah. All right. Anybody else have any comments about anything that has come through just on this page? I see a lot. Just as I'm looking at trends, I'm seeing affordable housing, a lack of intergovernmental communication.
Yeah, this is Alex Muir again with 100 Miles.
Yeah.
Just from my experience and working with several county commissions and municipal, and cities as well, I think there's a lack of respect for the comprehensive planning process and the comprehensive plan once it's adopted. And a lot of these things are addressed in the comprehensive plan. So I feel, obviously we couldn't solve everything through the comprehensive plan, but just the willingness to amend it every time a new opportunity for a development comes up has been really disheartening in the communities I've been in.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, and we might be able to discuss a little bit of that when we talk about one of the aspects of the regional plan is kind of a way to kind of do minimum standards for different governments and different communities, and that might be something we can try to address in there, maybe. All right. Well, what do you think? Should we move on?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. All right. Let's move on. One more we got after this. So next one, we're doing opportunities. So a way that I like to think about opportunities is, you know, an opportunity is a gap, right? It's like something you can see that we could be doing that we're not. And I would think about, oh, you may have to change your, by the way, you may have to change and put in a new code for this one as for the other one. We can only ask 2 questions at a time per presentation. So you might have to go ahead and re-sign on. But yes, so think about opportunities. Think about maybe things that you've seen on your travels, things that kind of places, maybe our peer regions, our peer cities have done that maybe we have not done yet, and that we may have an opportunity to emulate in some way.
I think I saw a hand raised.
All right, let's see, we got rolling up and not out, so containing sprawl, water access, stormwater and sea level rise, trainings, sure. Consolidating governments, it's an interesting one. Regional collaboration, regional collaboration for sure. Planning now for future climate change, absolutely. Bike and pet access, multi-use pathways, GIS interoperability. I know people in our office would love that one.
It looks like this is set to only let us submit one answer, by the way. At least that's what I'm getting.
Okay. Maybe I can fix it. There we go. There we go. Opportunity to become a showcase for, wait, I lost. Showcase of how to grow human facilities that work with nature, not against it, expand arts. Opportunity, meaning we are a desirable place to live, work, and industry want to move here. That's true, we are seeing that for sure. Solar power generation. Interesting. A lot of these are definitely things that will have a regional focus. Things like energy, attracting businesses and work, regional collaboration, both between counties and municipalities, but also regional agencies like us and, excuse me, the MPOs. All these different types of organizations, the regional collaboration is definitely something that is going to have to be a big focus, it looks like. energy efficiency.
Anyone have any thoughts on opportunities?
Yeah, if you'd like to expand on anything that you've submitted, please feel free.
I'm clearly very talkative. This is Alex here with 100 Miles again. I was curious, I put down energy efficiency of community buildings, but I imagine you guys have talked about it at the very least, or do you have a program already in place for that to help local communities understand how to make their buildings more efficient and even maybe provide some technical assistance with that?
That's you mean us at CRC?
Yeah, and that might be beyond your scope, but certainly there could be brokerage of partnerships with you guys as the broker between local communities and experts.
Certainly, that's a great idea. I know Aaron's on the call. He might know more than I do, but that's definitely, if we don't do it, that's definitely a great idea. It's something we could probably look into. There are programs out there that we could probably help facilitate, lead, and there's some really interesting housing-related energy efficiency programs that we could tap into. Do you know of anything like that, Aaron, that we've done?
Not internally. I mean, there can always be referrals, but nothing that we've done in-house ourselves.
Yeah. All right. See complete streets. Love the complete streets. All right. Immigration or relocation from lockdown states to coastal areas. Oh, okay. That's interesting. All right. All right. This is good. Good stuff. Thank you, everybody. Let's go ahead and move on. This is the last one. This is the T, the threats. So generally threats we like to think about as the word that we use is external, but it could be kind of it could be some overlap, but yes, generally threats, the number one thing that we hear is the natural threats, which are existential threats to the region for sure, which is sea level rise, hurricanes and storms, flooding, absolutely. This one is going to be very interesting because I'll tell you right now, as you guys put in your answers, something that we've seen come up a lot of the time, just in the last couple months we've been working on this plan, is water and wastewater and things like that. And particularly, I see aging infrastructure, particularly things like failing septic systems, saltwater intrusion, and things like that. So that's definitely one thing that, correct me if I'm wrong, Cole, but that's definitely one aspect that I have heard a whole lot about, is becoming a more critical issue. It might be something to focus on as well. Let's see, what else do we got? Young professionals leaving, sprawl, uncontrolled growth, development density. So too much density in certain areas. National politics filtering down to the local level. Sprawl, unplanned growth. Impacts to agriculture. Yep, that's something that I've seen as well. Related to the water. Groundwater supply. Lack of citizen engagement. These water source, available water. Water quality being degraded. Overdevelopment, depleting groundwater. Traffic congestion. Traffic congestion is definitely a regional issue. Failure to acknowledge and respond to the need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Yep. Inability to reach rural citizens for planning involvement due to low-tech lifestyles. Yeah, that is definitely an issue as well. Housing costs, dune protection, offshore drilling, industrial development of port warehouses, loss of green infrastructure, so loss of our wetland and marsh buffers. Definitely another big regional issue, protecting against those storms. Military reduction, that's absolutely definitely one to keep an eye on for sure. Increased workforce retirement, we can see that, is a little bit it's a little bit specific to the context right now, but we can see right now, the need for workers, skilled or otherwise, right now. Absolutely, Superfund sites, inconsistent zoning, developing a sense of place. Yeah. Anybody see anything here that jumps out at them, whether if there's something you agree with or strongly disagree with or anything like that?
Hi, this is Alice with EPD.
Hello.
I wanted to put a plug in. GFA is currently doing grants, not loans, grants for converting from septic to sewers for municipalities and counties. Just wanted to let everybody online know about that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is there somewhere, a website maybe, that you could post into the chat if people
I'll look
wanted
and see
to
if
know
I can
more?
find the link. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right. All right, well, thank you so much. I'm gonna kick it back over to Cole. He'll talk a little bit more about this, but I wanna leave you by thinking, just think about looking at all of these concerns and the strengths and weaknesses and everything, opportunities, and think about kind of the document that we're creating, the regional plan, and you as a stakeholder, as a resident, as a business owner, as a nonprofit, whatever you may be. Think about all of these things that we've discussed, and think about how this plan would be helpful to you. How would this be useful to you? What would you like to see in it that you personally would find useful, or your organization or your city would find useful? Because we want this to be a document that means something to people and they can use. So if you have an idea of what it would be useful for you, we want to hear about that. So I'll kick it back over to Cole now.
All right, thanks, Scott. So we got done with the SWOT a little bit earlier than I was expecting. So if you are interested in, or you have any comments on the vision and goals, you can stay and talk about that. But before anyone goes, I just want to cover the upcoming events that are going to be happening. We will be having a listening session here at our Darien office on July 14th at 3 to 6. And I want to emphasize that is an open house. That is not going to be a 3-hour long presentation. You can come and leave as you like. And then we're going to have another virtual stakeholder meeting also on Teams, and that's going to be August 18th at 3 a.m. And our final public listening session will be at Ogeechee Technical College in Statesboro on September 15th, again 3 to 6, and that's an open house. And our final stakeholder meeting will be October 13th at 3 p.m. Do we have any questions about the schedule or the process, or really anything about the regional plan?
This is Alex with 100
Hey.
Miles. Are you guys updating the resources of regional importance? I might be mixing up that title, but hopefully you know what I'm talking about.
I could be wrong, but I think that's a separate plan. There's
Okay.
there are two maps that we're updating. I think it's the regional development map and the areas requiring special attention map, and those will be updated during this plan cycle. And we're going to be talking about those, I believe, at the on the July 14th meeting. We'll be bringing those maps and people can comment on them. And we will also be discussing it on the August 18th virtual meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, this is Alice again. I did find the link and posted it in chat along with the contact information.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
This is Alex again. One thing that I didn't add to the threats is zoning homes and residential too close to industrial. And with the expansion of warehouses on the northern side of the end of the coast, I think that's something to be really concerned about.
Right. All right, thank you. So yeah, if you have any questions or you want to talk about the vision and goals, you can stay for that. But if you don't have any thoughts about that, you're free to leave. We've covered all the main business that we wanted to cover during this meeting. So thank you all. So are there any other questions? All right. So those of you that are, I guess, haven't left yet, have you had a chance to look at the vision document, the vision and goals document?
Yeah.
Okay. If you haven't, I have it up here, and I guess I can spend a while on each page for you to look it over. But are there any thoughts about it? Anything that needs to be added or anything you want revised?
Hey, this is Patty, Sis Trunk. I guess you're not really there yet, and I don't know if you're talking about just that page or if you're going, if you're asking for like the whole thing. But in terms of transportation, I guess I would just ask that we not call anything like the invest in transportation alternatives. I think prioritizing biking and walking and mass transit in many cases, that's not an alternative for someone. That's their only means of transportation. So I guess just that terminology is starting to become outdated. And by the time this plan is ready to go, and then where it lives for the next few years or however long, it'll definitely be outdated.
Okay.
I think that's a great point, Patty. Would you have any recommendations on what verbiage you would like to use?
Using the terms like active transportation and mass transportation or mass transit are probably better options. I know it's a little bit more verbiage, but that also better characterizes what you're talking about. Transportation alternatives, I mean, really, certain types of vehicles could be transportation alternatives. So to be more specific there, I think is beneficial too.
Right. I think that's a great point. Thanks for that comment.
Right. Thank you.
And this is Lisa Brewer. To Patty's point, because I was going to say something about that too, but affordable transportation, because a lot of our folks that our neighborhoods and all people that live in poverty, we have a lot of service jobs that pay minimum wage, and for them to have affordable transportation to get to those minimum wage jobs, I think is vital.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that we'll add something about affordability of transit and all that.
When you say affordable transportation, do you have in mind, all forms, or are we talking specifically public transit or or something like that?
Well, it would just be, of course, access, because I know on here you have improved access to services. So whatever is affordable and whatever is, because we have a lot of folks that live in rural areas, and we have a lot of folks that live, in downtown areas. So I guess access is really relative as to where they live, and where these transit services.
I think we might have lost you at the end of it there, Lisa, but thank you.
With along those kind of same lines with livable communities, there's no mention of complete streets there. I know Scott just did a couple of great presentations on complete streets, but livability, and that kind of ties into transportation too, but planning for and implementing complete streets might also be worth mentioning in using that terminology.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely put something about complete streets in there.
Cole, is broadband mentioned anywhere in the goals?
That's a good question. Okay, barely. Yeah, we should add something about that. Yeah.
I might be missing it, but I don't see anything under the resources management section about cultural resources. And
Okay.
I've seen a lot lately of historic districts being being amended, and a lot of struggle on Sapelo with the Gullah Geechee culture being preserved.
Right.
So I think that is worth including.
All right.
Broadband is mentioned under economic development, but I think including that as part of like livable communities makes sense as well, just because so much of our livability is reliant on that connectivity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is sort of mentioned as sort of a throwaway, but I definitely think it deserves a at least like a sub goal, if not it's a separate thing under livability or some other aspect, because it is very important, and DCA has very much highlighted that as a main priority for the state. So I definitely think that is something that we should highlight in our plan.
Patty, I think the livability section is a good place for that. I think that's a great perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And to jump back to what Alex was saying about the cultural resources, arts are also not really mentioned, and I don't think communities really thrive at all without an arts. So livability could also include, and I don't know if I'm getting too far into the weeds here, but I can't imagine any of our communities up and down the coast without an arts scene or cultural scene to not be livable.
Cole, can you I don't have these in front of me. Can you go back up to the resources or down?
We mentioned in it there's natural and historic.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't see anything about arts.
Well, it does actually does say
So
preserve our cultural and his
Right, that's what I was going to ask. If that wording was sufficient, or how you would like to see that change to be more encompassing.
I only just kind of was responding to what Alex said, and then as I was thinking and kind of searching through the goals, and it occurred to me, so I hadn't really thought it through too much, but you could say natural, historic, cultural, and cultural resources, because I think arts could be included with cultural under resource management.
Sure, I know I'm asking you to think on your feet, but I'd like. Yep.
No, sometimes I can.
Yeah, I think that's a good addition there. I think it's pretty broad. So I think a lot of times we preserve the historic resources that they're not diverse. Like, I mean, we have it in Brunswick. Like, the squares are not representing people in a diverse way. The squares where we have monuments. And I know we have that issue in Savannah. And the Gullah Geechee community on Sapelo is struggling right now with some zoning issues where they're allowing people to come in and build bigger footprint houses than they should. And if anyone on this call is part of that community, please jump in. Don't let me speak for the community. But we've been working with them. And I don't know if it's appropriate to specifically call out the Gullah Geechee community, if that's what this document is for, but I just feel like equitable preservation of historic and cultural resources is something that is missing.
This document would not be the place to call that out specifically. That said, maybe adding the word equitable or equitably preserve is something that we could look at doing.
Okay, yeah, I think that would cover it really well.
And what you were saying about cultural resources, does this phrase like satisfy you regarding? I mean, if we add equitable in there, would that be what you're looking for?
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, to be honest, I think what's going to really mean something is then taking this and putting it into action. But I think equitable culture totally encompasses what we're coming at.
Right. This document really serves to provide incentive, especially for funding opportunities. If grants or funds are available and we can show that it's in our regional plan, it increases the likelihood that we can see these projects implemented.
That's great.
Right. So anything like with the historic resources and all that we can get in there, it's important to be able to show that we have thought about these things. So we definitely appreciate this type of feedback.
Any other thoughts on the vision and goals?
Cole, for the record and the recording, this is Eric Larson, Effingham County Development Services. I had sent some comments in on the website about the vision statement, and I won't go over them in detail, but two things that I saw that were missing from the vision statement was really a discussion about the need to continue to focus on our infrastructure, water and sewer, our capacity, our ability to grow it, and transportation as well. Transportation was mentioned, but as your data shows, 90% of all travel is still by vehicle, and to economically grow with warehousing and manufacturing in the ports, we need to invest on our roads. Our community struggles to have enough funding to keep our roads maintained, let alone expand them to take care of growth. So I've given you those comments in writing. I just wanted them kind of make them known to the group. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, and I've looked those over, and I'll be, I guess, preparing a revised version of this after this meeting. Is there any specific language in the transportation section that you would like?
No, I'll leave that to you. I think my notes to you were concise.
Okay,
enough.
so addressing.
I'll leave you to craft the language.
Okay, so addressing funding for road maintenance, and I guess another thing would be encouraging regional coordination in addressing road wear resulting from warehousing and related things. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, we have the MPO, but as a region, we don't have the money, we don't have the funding to maintain our network, and we struggle to do that and grow our network as well, and expand. I mean, with new routes, bypasses, that sort of thing. So we're overloading our existing corridors and really lacking the ability to construct new corridors for funding or what have you. So yeah, regional coordination. Ports in Savannah and the warehouses are in Effingham, and Fort Wentworth and Bryan County and elsewhere. And so there needs to be regional coordination to handle the infrastructure. And again, warehousing doesn't produce jobs, manufacturing does. And without good water and sewer and a dependable supply, and we can't grow that way. And
Yes,
I
sir.
think the region depends a lot on Savannah to produce water for us and distribute it out. Several communities buy from them wholesale, and the ability to get new water sources is very limited. So I think that needs to be part of it.
All right. Definitely, yeah. Any other thoughts on the vision and goals? How about the vision itself? Are we good with the vision? It's sort of just a generic vision statement, but are we good with the vision? All right. So are there any questions about the regional planning process or any of this?
This is Lisa. I just have one question because I've never participated in this type of planning with the Regional Commission before. All of these goals, how are they implemented? Who actually breaks them down and unpacks them and I guess creates I guess a plan around each of these goals? How does that work?
Yeah. So so the goals. This is all very visionary and sort of setting, I guess, values and priorities. But in terms of implementation, we do have a work program, which is just a list of projects, and that's going to be more of, I guess, a practical, accountable document that you can look at and see what has been done and what hasn't been done and all that. And we're going to have performance standards for all the local governments. So those are sort of the things that help us achieve the goals, if that's what you're asking.
Mhm. Yeah, so I guess I understand the process better. All of the local and county governments in our region will participate in these, or is it selective?
Sorry, what do you mean by participate?
Well, I guess that's what I'm trying to understand. Who's responsible for creating, for making each of these goals happen? Whose responsibility is that?
I guess that would be our organization, and just anyone that's working with us.
Okay, okay. Do you get support from other municipalities or community groups to help with the implementation?
Hey, Lisa, this is
Of any of the goals?
I'm sorry, Lisa, you were cutting out just a little bit there. Your internet. The last few words, can you repeat those, please?
So, I'm sorry. Yeah, for some reason, having an internet connection issue. I was just curious as to, is it the CRC that actually implements each one of these goals with support and help from community groups or municipalities or I guess county governments?
Right. So there's two ways that this document really comes into play in our day-to-day activities. Each county and city is required to have a comp plan similar to a regional plan. It has many of the same components, and that will mimic many of the elements of our regional plan. So it can serve as a guiding document for our counties and cities that have a similar plan that is used to implement their projects in their communities. The other way that it can be used in a practical way is when it comes to state and federal funding, being able to look back at this document and say, for instance, if we have a historical project or renovation project that there's funding out there for, and we can point to our regional plan and say, we've identified this, we're planning for it, we've invested in it. It stands a greater chance at being funded by those, by the state or the federal grant. And like Cole said, we will have a list of projects at the end, a work plan that will contain some current projects that we're aware of. And as we think of some more in the future, we can amend it and add additional projects. And then each update every 5 years, when we do an update like this, we will look back at the previous work plan and go down the list of what was accomplished, what was not accomplished, and why.
Okay. Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions on just the general regional plan process?
I was wondering if you guys get a chance to present this to the local governments at all, and perhaps like they're even willing to adopt it.
Yeah. Aaron, did you want to speak on that?
Sure. Yeah, so we have a council that is over our organization, and it's got members from each county, representatives from each county and cities within our area, and they will have to approve of this document before we can send it to DCA for approval.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I just want to thank you guys for like taking the lead on this kind of conversation. I'm happy to know people are talking about this stuff. So kudos, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want you. Thank you for being involved. We really, you guys are the real folks doing this. So thank you for coming.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay. So I guess Patty had a comment that was there's no mention of trails. There's no mention in the goals of recreation, trails, parks, etc. Yeah. So I guess we didn't really say much about recreation, and that's all right. So that will be incorporated. More mention of recreation opportunities and trails and all of that. So I guess just last call for any questions about any of this.
Is this the last call, or with more is there opportunity for more discussion, or like if we have a eureka moment later, we can email you?
Absolutely. I mean,
okay.
I was just saying last call because it seems like we were coming to the end. If you still have more to say, absolutely. And again, I'm available by email, and we can figure out whatever to communicate and coordinate and get the information we need on this.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and Patty, on our website, the regional plan page on our website does include kind of a couple different documents, including statistics and just some fun stuff to chew on. And the submission form will go directly to me and Cole. It doesn't disappear into the nether. So if anybody listening does want to just get in touch, either email us directly or call us or use that form. It will get read and it will get seen. It doesn't just disappear. And then we do have those in-person meetings coming up as well. The next one, like Cole said, will be here at the CRC office. And it'll be great fun, probably.
Yeah, and Aaron's put a link to the website in the chat, so that has pretty much everything you need to know about the regional plan. And if it's not, then email me or put in one of those contact forms, and we'll figure it out. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. It seems like everyone's good on questions now, unless I'm wrong. But yeah, thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. It makes this whole thing much better for us and makes the whole process much easier. So we will be having another meeting our next virtual meeting will be in August. So I look forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you guys for your work on this.
Thank you.